Hey, I'm Mike Montgomery, and today I'd like to show you how I built these interlocking 2-foot by 2-foot patio deck tiles. This is a super fun limited tools project, and I'm excited to show you how I made them today on Modern Builds. Really quickly, before we get building, I want to give a big thanks to the sponsor of today's episode, Heart Tools. I built this entire project using 3 of their tools: the 20-volt cordless, brushless impact drill driver combo kit, as well as the 10-inch miter saw, which I was really impressed by. And if you want to learn more about them or about Heart Tools in general, you can follow the links down in the description. Now let's get building. The tops of these deck tiles are made from 1x4 slats, and I needed to figure out how wide they were combined, so I put 6 of them together with 1/8-inch spacers, and I found that they were about 24¼ inches wide. After that, I set up a stop block on my miter saw to cut that length, that way all of my deck tiles would be square. Overall, I'm building 12 deck tiles, and each of these use 6 slats, so overall I need to cut 72 of these 24¼ inch long pieces. Once I had all of these pieces cut, I made a quick drilling template so that I could pre-drill all of my holes on these slats. It's been a while since I've done a project where I have to batch out a lot of matching pieces, so I'm going to be making quite a few jigs throughout this project. All of them are going to be really simple though, but super helpful. Next, I grabbed a bunch of 2x3s and I'll be cutting them to length on the miter saw as well. I set up my stop block so that the 2x3 frame would allow a 1/4 inch overhang all the way around the perimeter. After my long pieces were cut, I added 2 2x3 spacers onto my stop block, and I cut the rest of my pieces for the frame underneath the deck tiles. Using actual 2x3s as spacers are going to ensure that everything goes together perfectly square. And while I'm finishing these last couple cuts, I want to give a big shout out to this Heart miter saw. It cut clean, square, and I had a great experience with it. And just like I did before, I made another drilling template for these 2x3 pieces for a screw on each end and the center on my long boards. And to do this, I'm using an 1/8 inch bit in my 20-volt Heart brushless drill. So now it's time to start assembling our 2x3 frames, and to do that, I'm using this really stupid simple assembly jig, which is just a really square piece of plywood screwed down to my workbench top. What it allows me to do is line up all of my pieces perfectly square and screw them together without any extra hands. I made sure to glue and screw all of my pieces together for a strong hold, and as I went, I made sure to measure from corner to corner with each of my pieces to make sure that they actually went together square. And after I had the first frame complete, all I needed to do was build 11 more. But we're gonna skip through that, and now I'm gonna show you assembly jig number 2. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that the slats needed to overhang the frame by 1/4 inch on all sides, and this is how I was able to do it. The frame nests neatly into the jig, and then the 2 fences that I put onto the jig make sure that there's that 1/4 inch overhang that I talked about earlier. And while I finish assembling that first deck tile, I'd like to quickly thank the sponsor of today's episode, Heart Tools. Heart Tools is a new line of tools sold exclusively at Walmart, and as you can see, they look great. Regular Modern Builds viewers know that I've been using my Heart tools for the past few months now, and they've held up great, and I couldn't be more proud to recommend them to you now. Their 20-volt platform has all the power you need for regular DIY and home improvement projects, plus they have a 40-volt line of lawn and garden tools available also at Walmart. If you'd like to learn more about the Heart tools I'm using or anything else that they offer, be sure and follow the links down in my description. One more huge thanks to Heart Tools. Now back to the build. And just like before, once I had one piece complete, I just needed to build 11 more. But thankfully, my friend Rachel Metz was in Joshua Tree house hunting, and she stopped by to give me a hand. I assembled more of the deck tiles while she started sanding, first with 100 grit, then 150 to get them prepped for staining. So huge thanks to Rachel. If you want to go check out her channel, I will be sure to leave it linked down in the description. And really quickly, I just want to beat the comments to this. I know I mentioned that I used the impact driver and drill combo kit as well as the miter saw, and those were the 3 tools from Heart that were necessary for this project. Now I am using the random orbit sander, but if necessary, you could always sand these by hand. And next, I want to stain all of these, but before I do, I'm going to apply a coat of wood conditioner. That way I can get a more even coat. Now, I don't stain projects often, but when I do, I almost always use Early American, and it doesn't matter which brand. I really feel that this is the perfect shade of that medium dark tone that a lot of people are going for when they're staining pine. It's dark enough that it really adds a lot of depth to the wood grain, but it's not so dark that it makes it hard to photograph. Links for this, as well as all of the other materials and supplies, will be linked in the description. And obviously these deck tiles are going to be living outside, so I wanted to give them a proper outdoor finish. So I'm using Thompson's Water Seal. I applied 2 coats, letting them soak in before wiping off any of the excess. So at this point of the project, I was getting really excited. I could finally lay out all of my deck tiles and see how it was going to look in front of the bus. Of course, you could stop here if you wanted to, but I'm about to show you a really cool way to make all of these deck tiles interlock, that way they never slide out of alignment on you. What you see me doing here is laying out post-it notes everywhere my deck tiles meet, and on those edges, I'm going to be using this aluminum C-channel to create my brackets. I'm using aluminum for this because it's a soft enough metal to be able to cut with woodworking tools. The aluminum that I'm using is 3/8 of an inch wide, and that's why I really stressed that 1/4 inch reveal. Really quickly, I'm going to try and explain the math here, hopefully it makes sense, but if I have a 1/4 inch overhang on all of my slats, and I'm using 3/8 inch brackets, that means that I have an extra 1/8 inch of tolerance on each of my pieces. But those brackets are made out of 1/16 inch thick material, which means each of my tiles allow for a 1/16 inch gap. Only thing here is that each of my joining faces have 2 tiles with 2 brackets, meaning I have an 1/8 inch wiggle room, the exact distance that I use to space out all of my slats between tiles. This is going to continue to help make everything look super uniform and very clean. And the piece on the other side is going to hook down. And with that, these deck tiles are done. So overall, I really love this project. I think it came together nicely and it was a pretty fun build. If I were to do anything differently, I would have made a total of 15 tiles instead of 12. That way I could have 5 rows of 3 instead of 4. I just think it would have looked a little bit nicer. Originally, I designed these tiles as a stow-and-go option for the bus. I liked something that I could assemble and disassemble quickly and take with me wherever I went. But since building these, I've done a little bit more research and I found that there are similar products available. People use these to refresh their backyard or their deck or balcony all the time. Oftentimes they're 1 foot by 1 foot, and I really like this 2 foot by 2 foot option. Doing this really gives the bus some purpose in the backyard before I do a big backyard transformation, and it's nice covering up that front wheel. I'm able to assemble my deck tiles in about 5 minutes, and since I'm assembling on sand, I'm able to move the dirt around a little bit and level everything out as I go. This worked really well. But if I was installing these on top of gravel or concrete, I'm sure that this would go by even quicker. All right, well, I really hope you enjoyed this project, and if you are interested in building some tiles for yourself, make sure and follow the link in the description where I have free plans on my website. Also, if you're not already, make sure and click the subscribe button and the notification bell down below. That way you stay updated every time I post new projects. And if you want to keep up with me in between videos, follow me on Instagram at Modern Builds. I want to give one more thanks to Heart Tools for sponsoring today's video and making this content possible, and of course to you guys for watching. And until next time, this has been Modern Builds. Bye everybody.